Oh,
Janice.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Janice.
You're calling me?
I am.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. No,
Hi.
I don't know. I thought I would do a little shtick. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
It is great to have you on the
thank
West
you.
Coast,
Thank
Janice.
you. It's so great to be here.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I know.
We're going to have a day.
I've missed everybody. I really have. I've missed you. I've missed Emily, Barandowin, Karen, Drea. Well, I don't miss Drea.
Everybody?
Because I see
because you see Drea.
Jen, and now
today.
Myra is back with
Myra.
us. We want to welcome Myra back.
Yep. We have Myra back in fulfillment, which is great.
Yeah.
And you miss
Ivan. And I haven't. Hold on.
Romper room.
I haven't missed Ivan. I'm happy to see Ivan and Chris. And who I said Barandowin at the beginning.
Did you say Barandowin?
Right
away?
Right away. Who did I miss?
Me.
Kate. Oh.
No, I don't know if she.
Did I miss Kate?
I don't know if you. No. Oh, and Cara.
Cara. Well, Cara's not here today.
So it's true.
And we have to say a very sad farewell. Grace has gone on to another wonderful gig.
Yeah, and
Great
we had
new gig.
a nice little free tip Friday yesterday.
Friday.
Last week, Friday. What day? Where? Who are you?
Today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. So yes, so we bid Gracie a fond farewell.
Yeah.
But it was great, Janice. We've got so many people jumping on. Look,
wonderful.
I can see everybody, and so many people are happy to see you. We have such a great. We've got a great show for you today, but we really do. It's going to be really fun. You are sprinkling some bead magic.
I hope.
Yes, I hope. Of course.
I hope.
Yeah.
I want to share some of the tricks that I've learned to making stringing and designing more effortless.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal, is to create jewelry that speaks to who you are, and instead of kind of trying to push through and make it work, it's sort of more like meditation, like
and make it easy.
Yeah,
well, it's
like
kind of like
relax.
unplug your zen of stringing in a bracelet, sort of. Yeah. Well, as you guys know, if you're watching this live, we're super stoked that you watch us live on Facebook Live on our beadshop.com page. But you can always find these broadcasts if you join in late, or if you want to rewatch them. You can find them 3 ways. Of course, right here on our Facebook page, beadshop.com. You can go to our YouTube channel, beadshop.com, and on our YouTube channel, if you sign up for alerts, you are alerted every time we post something up on YouTube, for both Free Tip Fridays and for our Facebook Lives. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you don't get the chat feature. So sometimes you see us or hear us answering those questions, and we'll try and repeat that question just to make sure that you're on the same page with us. And then lastly, you can always find them on our website, beadshop.com. If you go to the front page, there's a Facebook Live little button right in the navigation bar. You click on that, and a big page of all of our Facebook Lives come up. So not only can you watch the broadcast right there, but you can see all of the materials that we're using. There's a link to the project page, and what a project, you guys, with this. There's so many. As we were joking just before we went on air, Janet said, well, trust me, to make a project with so many moving parts.
Yes.
But we're okay with that. It's going to be really, really fun. So you can find all of these right on our website on beadshop.com. If you do want to bypass the chatter, we like to just say hello and greet people right at the beginning of this broadcast. But if you're really itching to get right into the details and the lesson, you can fast forward about 10 to 15 minutes, push that marker forward. You can also, every Monday after the Wednesday broadcast, around noon, we post noon Pacific time, we post the episode notes.
Right. On beadshop.com.
On beadshop.com. On the project page, on the Facebook Live project. And so many of you have written in and said how helpful they were. I think Alice Howe did a call out and said, I think it was you, Alice, that said you outdid yourself, you and Drea, on these episode notes.
Drea, first of all, I want to say, Drea, I hope you feel better. Drea is...
She's a little under the weather.
She's under the weather today.
Alice Howe is also under the weather in Colorado.
Oh, we're sorry, Alice Howe, that you're under the weather.
But she has really taken over episode notes, and she just does such a great job. And that's freeing me up to do these wild and crazy 20 ingredient projects.
Right, thank goodness that we're all, that, you know, we all kind of, right, Emily's hitting her head against the wall over there. But we do love these projects for all that they have so many moving parts, and we're like trying to corral them all together. They really are amazing.
Well, my next one is the first week of March. And I have got like something really.
I think I'm going to be out of town.
I think we're just going to have Janice just do it right from the East Coast. We're like, I think I'm washing my cat that way.
So we are having lots of shout outs. Love, everybody's really liking to see you again, Janice.
Thank you, everyone. I miss you all.
Well, let's jump in.
Okay.
I mean, is there anything else you want to share?
No, I'm just.
We're ready.
Hi, Eli.
Oh, little Eli.
My little Eli. I'd like to shout out to him. But no, let's get started.
All right. Well,
so why don't we start out? I'm going to, because I don't do this every week like Kate does. Brando, you need to tell me when I need to move my hands or I need to get this closer.
No problem.
Why don't we start out with what started this project out, and that was this new class we got in that we're calling the Clio.
the Clio.
And
right
we
here.
used to have it a long time ago at when we had the old store.
The brick and mortar.
And we now we've just brought it back in a 5-strand, a 4-strand, and a 3-strand. So this is the Clio 5.
And it's magnetic.
Yeah, it's great.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's really easy. It stays connected. If you wear a pacemaker, maybe you can't use this, I guess. Some people don't want
Well, I don't know. You're not...
Yeah. It's far enough away. Just, just maybe not during Pledge of Allegiance. Don't wear your...
don't, yeah.
So that's what originally inspired me, was coming up with a design that would work with this class. And then how do you, because it's so many strands, how do you start designing a multi-strand bracelet? Because I think people get frozen when they go, well, and I've heard this for years, like, oh, what do I put on the first strand? Where do I put my charms? How do I start out? How do I end? How do I know if it's long enough? So we're going to basically diagram it. Today is a lesson in some designing. We're then going to close one off. We have this other one here, which is the blue one called Flow. So this one, I have to remember all my names. This one is Origins. The green one is Origins. Then the blue one is called Flow. And then the third one...
We've got a brown colorway.
Right, which we call Grounded. And, sorry.
Do you think you're going to go back up, or should I move in closer?
I think you could move in closer.
Yeah, I think now's the time.
Now is a really great time.
So, Janice, one of the things that you were saying to me before we started the broadcast was, when I said, what was one of the main things that you want to get across to people? And what you told me was, designing is a lot easier than you think.
It is. It is a lot, yes.
And one of those things that you talk about that is your handout.
Yes. So, many moons ago, I created a handout called Tricks of the Trade, and it's a multi-strand necklace with a very easy, effortless, because I always want jewelry to look as good in the back as it is in the front.
That's right.
I want everyone who's listening today to know that someday, maybe 100, 200 years from now, your jewelry is going to be in a museum.
Right, in the Smithsonian.
Maybe it'll be in a gallery in a month. I don't know. But I want your jewelry to be able to be viewed 360 degrees.
Like the Hope Diamond.
Exactly. That you do not, like, just worry about the front and then slap the back together. You want to make sure that everything is as effortlessly put together and designed. And the thing is that your beads will help you do that. Today, so this handout I did post.
You posted on beadshop.com?
Well, you know what? I forgot to post the link to it. So
Okay.
maybe, Emily, if you get a chance, you could put the link
Gita
in.
got to it before I even had a chance.
Oh,
No.
Gita, bless you.
This is in our class handout section, which is, if you go to projects, kind of scroll down a little bit, you'll see one photo that says class handouts.
Class handouts.
And these are, we've got a lot of old handouts in there from the bead shop days.
And I wanted to mention, Suzanne mentions that it's her design Bible, this handout.
Oh, this handout.
And I really think she's right. The way that you really lay out this laning, and it's if you don't have it, you guys, it is a worthy download.
And people have, when I would teach this class, right now on page, this is page 3. This is called beading like you're playing the piano, and you can start out with a piece of soft flex and some beads. And if you look at this, I know these little triangles and dots may not make sense, but if you look at it, this might be a round bead, a seed bead, a round bead, a seed bead, a round bead. And then you go, okay, what if I put 2 round beads together and a seed bead, 2 round, seed bead, etc. Then what if I change the pattern to a round, 2 seed beads, a round, so that as you go, then you start to, well, I've got my round, I've got my seed bead. Now what if I put in a little cube? What happens to my design? And what you do before you start stringing is you just do some practicing.
Just like you wouldn't go out on the pitcher's mound, I always say, you wouldn't go out on the
Warm
pitcher's
up.
mound without warming up. This
You
is the
warm
same
up.
thing.
Okay. And so today what we're going to work on is we're going to build based on lanes of the freeway. And so we're going to make sure we have the right measurements, and then we're going to start laning. And when I talk about laning, I talk about how we're on the freeway, and you don't really want a large truck on either side of you. You want to make sure that those trucks are ahead or behind you. And it's a very kind of simple formula which is going to inform our stringing. So why don't we get going, okay?
All right. Okay.
So we want to start out with,
We
we're
want
going
to
to
start out with
you.
measuring, yeah. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of you guys, when you mentioned on the bead table on our Facebook group, as well as
Hold on one second.
what's that, Janice?
Can they see us, or is it just down
No,
here?
it's down here.
Okay, can we go back up for a little bit? Is that okay? I want to just make sure everyone can see me measuring Kate's wrist.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, what was my thought? I don't remember.
Talking
was
about
I saying?
measurements on the bead, on the
Measurements, right. So the measuring portion of this, I think, is really valuable because, especially with a multi-strand bracelet here, if you're just doing a single strand bracelet, it's easy to measure because but there's so many factors that go on in this. So that's why we're going to start with this measuring, and then we'll end with the measuring as well.
Right. So the first thing we would just want to say is that this particular class, this Clio class, it's 2 individual parts, and then it goes in together. So will you hand me the tape measure? And I just want, when I was factoring this in, I had to factor in the length of the jump rings from one side to the other, including the clasp and the crimping. And that takes up about a half an inch.
Yeah, about half.
Right. So it's about a half an inch. And so if I measure your wrist, and we have also your wrist
our
thing
friends
if we needed it. This
from back in the day.
Yeah, and we made these by just measuring our wrist. And your wrist is 6 3/4,
It is
as I remember.
indeed.
And we just went like this, and it's, 6 3/4 with just a little air.
A little ease.
We're not wearing a girdle. It's, you know what I mean?
I did.
You don't want
I'm not
you
wearing
don't
a
want
girdle.
that thing too tight.
No.
But you don't want it too loose.
No.
So this is your starting point.
Yeah,
This
it's a good base.
Right.
Baseline.
Right. So with this particular bracelet, I'm sorry, you can't, it can't fall off you. It's almost impossible unless you made it like wider than your wrist. So I'm going to hold your hand up like this, okay? And so I want to show everybody that these are the hips. These are the hips of your hand. And
it's the first time my hips have been slim. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be here all day.
We don't want, if it's a single strand, we don't want a single strand to fall below. And with this, with the wide cuff, we don't want to measure right here because it also has to fit up here. So if you hold this up on you,
see how wide?
We have to really measure generously because it won't fall off, but it won't fit if we don't factor in that a tree limb. It gets wider at the base.
And this is this bracelet is about, it's a little over an inch. It's about 1.5 inches, right? Because the clasp is pretty wide.
Right. So when we measure your wrist, we want to make sure we're not just measuring, oh, well, it's like 6 1/4. Well, that's not going to fit more up here, which is 6 3/4, which is what we have on your bracelet.
Wrist roll.
We made these little things out of file folders.
We did.
And they work great. Okay, so you want to measure your wrist, and then the next thing you do, and I want to give it a little bit of air just on its own, not counting the clasp.
So I think we probably want to move, since we're done with the wrist, we want Brandon to focus back down here. Sorry, Brandon.
Okay.
No problem. Move that camera back down because I want people to see how you do this, JP.
Okay, so I want to just, we have a couple of here that have been, I want to say that this one I did for me, and the beads themselves are just 7 inches. And then for you, your wrist is a little bit bigger. We want to go maybe 7 and at the most 7 1/4, like not that much more. So I'm going to, and then we're going to close this one.
Yeah, that guy off.
Or at least part of it later, okay? But so this is not long enough. I should have had a longer ruler, but we can use this one. And is this in the field? Am I in a good field now?
Brandon will follow you.
Okay, so I'm going to just go, I'm measuring along, a 7 1/4. Okay? And then I'm going to take the clasp, because I'm a visual person, and I'm going to go, okay, so that would add about a 1/2 inch. Remember we said it was 1/2 inch? So that's going to take it to about here. Again, I'm a visual learner. I'm going to go back and I'm going to measure one more time, and I think we're making it maybe a little too big, but that's 7 3/4. So let me just hold that up on you. And the beauty of this 7 3/4, so that's going to be it's going to be way too big.
Well, but also, Janice, remember, the beads have a little bit of bulk.
They do.
So when I'm measuring for something like this, I would probably, I don't know, that's probably about right, I think.
I'm going to go to 7 1/8.
Okay.
7 1/8.
Okay.
We're going to have all of our strands done. But to just keep in mind, everyone, that you want to just give yourself, okay, this is, you can even write it, clasp, so that as you're stringing, you're making sure that you are factoring in, I'm going to be adding, I have my loops of soft flex, and then I have the loops of the clasp. So when I made this one, because everyone may go, oh, why did you say the project takes 6 hours to do? Well, the stringing takes about an hour. And the closing takes about 5 hours.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, closing, it is true. So this length, let's just write it out here. Let's do one final measurement. If my wrist measurement is 6 3/4, right? And then, so that's my wrist.
Yeah.
Then what do we have? What are we going to do for our beads?
We're going to do beads. We're going to do beads to 7 inches.
Okay, 7 inches of beads. And we're saying that our clasp
will add
about a half an inch.
Right.
Plus 1/2 inch of clasp. Now, none of this, you guys, has to be set in stone. And if you're making one of these that maybe your beads are larger, right? That width, just like if we were sizing for a ring band, and that it's wider or a thicker piece of metal, same thing with beads. You have to add that length. So we would add a little bit more, but we'll check it at the 7 and then we'll measure it.
Okay, so let's cut a piece of soft flex 12 inches.
12 inches.
And then let's put a piece of tape.
And so we're using the Softflex, and again, all of this list is on beadshop.com on our project list, but we're using the Softflex, what we kind of call the universal Softflex, the .014.
Right.
And we're using it in the copper for this one.
Right, but we're also mixing metals, so you could use...
So you could use it in, you could use any color Softflex.
Any color.
For sure.
Okay.
I'm going to cut it and hand it over to you.
Okay. Rule number 1, get stock in Scotch tape.
And Post-it notes.
And Post-it notes. Every single piece of your Softflex, each individual one, is going to have a tape flag at the beginning and a tape flag at the end. Okay.
I'm going to cut one
so
more.
you're going to cut...
Could you hand me the tape?
Sure. Here's the tape.
And did you guys notice how deliberately Janice put that tape flag on? I want to show you, you don't crumple the tape on the end. You really want to mindfully, in order for that tape to hold, mindfully put it on, really make sure it's down there, and then if there's any little sticky bit,
just
what I always do, I fold it over so it doesn't catch on anything.
Okay.
Sorry, I like to belabor the tape
That's
flag.
okay. So now let's just move these a bit out of the way so that we're not...
And Janice, you cut 12 inches
12
of this,
inches.
so we have plenty of room
To close.
work on either side.
Right.
Because closing with a tiny little piece of Softflex will make you crazy. Yeah,
right,
it's painful.
right. And and then now I'm going to tape this down again. So now I've taped this down at my starter mark, right here. Here's my starter mark.
That's your starter
So
line.
I have the tape down here, then I have the starter mark, and you could cut more, but I don't put another one down until I start on this.
Okay.
I know that the first couple of beads need to be small ones.
Small.
So we've got those, you've got, where are all our beads for this
Where
project?
are our shadows?
We have shadows. We can use the little hematite. I don't, we didn't cut we didn't cut these shadows.
Okay.
So let's cut the shadows.
And so we have, also I wanted to show you guys in the project, one of the things that Janice also was talking about with this project is that we can, this is the perfect thing to mix your metals. So we're using the antique copper and the little shadows for these. So, but you could certainly start to kind of come in, mix your different metals, but we have the antique copper in here, and we have the Tirahishi in here in the antique copper, and then we also have this Soul Gel seed bead in a brown, and this is a size 11. An 11-aught, Janice, I think is a great way to start.
Right. And you know, so like Emily has her way of putting them on. I kind of do them like that too. I could use like a little what are those mats? Those
bead
mats.
mats. I'm going to get this right out of the way.
I love, you know, because I'm like a watercolorist, I love working on paper. So
this is just a pad watercolor paper we have here.
Yeah, so I'm not even thinking about what I'm using. What you asked me earlier, what was the inspiration for this project? And the inspiration were your African mixes.
They're really fun, aren't they? And the African mixes are these guys here.
So one of the things that I do when I'm stringing, and I want to make sure you can see these.
Yeah, we can see. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry, Janice.
Okay. So I want to make sure you can see, and I'm going to have to pick it up because it's a little too far away from me. Oh.
Those little seed beads are little.
They are little. So sorry, everyone.
That's all right. You got it.
So I start out, and I'm thinking, I like that, and now I want to put on one of these unusual beads. But I have to choose from.
You've got so many unusual beads.
I have so many to choose from. I'm not going to my thing is I won't pick a really big one to use now.
Because you're tapering up, sort of.
Right, I'm tapering. And then I want to add, you know, some of the metal.
Shall I start cutting apart? Hand me that little bobble chain. Where's our little bobble chain? I want to start freeing that up for you.
So I found that the bobble chain was so much fun.
I thought you did a great job with that.
So here I am. I'm going to say, let's just say,
sneaking right over here.
Let's say I'm you, and you're going, okay, I don't know what to put on next. What do I do?
What do I do, Janice?
So, if you look at where we are with this now, I'll move it up there a little. I've sort of got like this. It's sort of what I would call kind of a graceful bulge. But this right in here is a bit of a bulge, right? Right in there. So I'm going to tell you what's in my brain now. I would probably put on a little shadow, and then because I've sort of been practicing, you know, I did my warm-up with my seed beads, and I said, oh, I kind of like the pattern of when two seed beads are together. Or I like the pattern when I put a metal bead next to one of the mixes. Now I haven't put on the melon yet, but my inclination is to put on first, and this is just how I think, I'm going to put that on first.
That shadow, little shadow.
Yeah, now I wouldn't put on a metal, because right now, a hishi, because I don't want the metal next to the metal right away. So I'm going to put this on, and then now I'm going to try putting on, I love these melons. These,
I do too, the 6 millimeter
this
melon.
One is the
That's
orange
the orange
brick.
yeah.
I love this.
So let me ask you, Janice, how long are you going to drive in this lane?
I have about 1 or 2 more beads left, and then I'm going to say, oh, I'm ready to do the next lane.
I can feel it. I can
You
feel
can feel it.
it.
Yeah, you can feel it. Okay.
I don't know. It sounds kind of weird, but it's funny.
Let's put, I call these little barbells, but they're not. They're called.
This is from our our bobble chain, you guys. And the bobble chain, all I did to free those up was I used the Xuron plier, and I just cut that little, right through that little link. Easy, easy. And then you could also, if you wanted to have those little baubles, let me show you this. You could also keep those 2 little baubles together.
You could.
And string through that little chain. Wouldn't that be cute?
You could. Now, I tried this hishi on this, and I want to show everyone. It doesn't look good, does it? We know it doesn't look good.
Because it's fighting with that bauble.
Yeah. So let's take that off, and let's go back and let's put on one of these really pretty fire polish.
And that's the pastel bronze fire polish. It's a 4 millimeter.
That looks good to me. Now I want to put one more seed bead on.
I love this color palette.
Yeah.
This one might be my favorite.
Really? I love them all. I love the green. Okay. I'm not going any place
so now
until
you tape it?
Tape it. I tape it there.
Because as everyone knows, the bead's natural habitat is the floor.
I tape it there. I'm pushing these up to the edge. And I may end up taking, when I'm done, taking that hishi off. It may be too bulky right by the clasp. That's a maybe. Okay, so then I'm going to just tape this down right at this end.
And we've got our
we have our measurements, and if you want, you can also, so you know exactly where it is, you can tape it down there. And if you're working on a counter or you're working on paper, this frosted tape peels right up.
And one of the things that I thought was cool, before you even start, Janice, you also were talking about surfaces. When you sent this, and some of you have seen this photo of when the pieces were laid out on here. I love this. This was like a piece of shirt cardboard or something, right? Or something like that. Like that, Bran?
Just forward.
Forward, okay. I loved how you made notes with this like you were a fashion editor in a magazine.
Well, it was coming to you and you were closing it.
Right.
And I needed to share with you the dimensions because
Right.
I didn't have, I was in Virginia, I didn't have crimp covers with me,
Right.
and I didn't have wire guardians, and you're the queen of soft flex closing.
Well, I loved how you use this as a portable work surface.
Yeah,
I thought it was
yeah,
really cool. So I
yeah.
wanted to share that here.
Okay, okay. So now we have the second one, and we can tape that one down.
Tape, more tape.
I'm going to just put that, you have it there, and then I'm going to tape that there. And then now we're going to string our second one.
Okay. Shall I string?
Yes.
Oh,
so
all right.
now what you're going to do,
Yes.
Kate, you're going to look at what's on your first strand.
Right. So
How
I
is-
know.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with some seed beads like you
Okay,
did.
okay.
And then I see that little, see your Hishi. So I'm going
And
to
you're
try and
gonna
go
raise
past
me?
it. Yeah. I'm going
Do
to
you
try.
want me to go get a foam mat
No,
for
I'm
these?
good.
Do you think we
No,
need a
no,
mat?
no. I just need to
Okay.
hold it up in my hand too. These are small. So I want to see, I want to kind of bypass
I need to change
that
something a
Hishi.
second.
What are you going to change?
This needs to be closer.
Does it?
Yes, you see, we have to put it where the rings are.
Okay.
And that could be the middle one if you want to, but there's going to be one more that has to fit in there.
Let's just make that happen right now.
Okay.
So this is 12 inches.
Yep.
I'm
So
gonna
you
cut
want to
that.
make sure that your strands are laid out
May I
based
have
on
the tape? Based on
Yeah.
the clasp.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
And then I'll take another piece of tape.
And I'll raise you.
I'll raise you a tape. I see your tape.
And I'll raise you a piece of
I'll
tape.
raise you another piece of tape.
There you go.
Katie Campagna said she thought that it was funny that all the youngins were probably wondering what a shirt cardboard was.
Oh, yes.
That still exists in shirts, right? Men's
When
shirts.
you're dry
May I
cleaning.
have one more?
Yeah.
They
Or
still get
one more
you
tape.
get a free piece of cardboard in your shirt.
In your shirt.
it's very similar to when you go into the Gap and you see them with their
Folding cardboard.
folding cards,
Right.
Right.
except in
Yeah.
plastic that
Right.
they use.
So see, here we go.
So you want, yes.
So see how that's lined up?
Yeah,
Really
so
good
let's,
point.
Let's just make the loops where we're going to do the other ones, so that
Great.
because your beads are, you could use really wide beads. You just want to know where they are.
So I'm going to put three of these guys on.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Now, as I'm looking at Janice's strand that's here, you can see that I've got that. I don't want to make that exact
No.
same choice that's
No.
there. So I'm going to throw on a shadow like that. And then I want to see what the Hishi looks like.
Okay.
Right? And so I think that Hishi
It looks good
is
there.
working. And I like bookending.
Okay.
So I'm going to bookend that
That looks great.
that one.
Now that can
Now-
become a design element that you
That
repeat.
bookend. Right.
That's just like it becomes its own little bead, that little section of the two little shadows.
And I am offsetting that 4 millimeter with a 4 millimeter down here.
Don't forget you have these lovely mixes.
I'm getting there because I use those two to bypass. And so now I've got a little bit of a skinny place here. So I'm going to throw in, let's see
You're
how
gonna
this
throw in
looks.
that one. I think you're really close, but I would take off one of those seed beads.
Would you?
I
One?
would. Yep. And now take a look at it.
Okay.
And maybe you even want one that's a little smaller.
Maybe.
Look at that.
I think that's okay.
Look at how good that looks.
Look at that.
Look at
bead.
that.
Now I'm going to go right in
You're cooking with gas.
to a melon bead. And so see how, you guys, that 4 millimeter, and I know this is kind of a little bit of minutia, but that 4 millimeter that's here, that Hishi that's here, it makes that wide, what did you call that? Elegant width, elegant
hips.
the hips.
I don't know.
But it makes, it kind of brings these two in while this one goes out. Does that make sense? Right? Doesn't it?
It does, but you know what I would do now is I would put a bead right there.
Would
to
you?
Move, yeah.
Move that down
Just
a
to give
touch?
it a little more air,
Little
because kind of the story is like a light touch on the piano keys. Now you may do it differently. You know, so I shouldn't interfere with what you're doing.
No, you
I shouldn't.
But you can't. But
I
Janice,
can't help
sometimes.
myself. I can't help myself.
Sometimes. So let me put this guy back on. I also like these
Now
melons.
let's see how it. I love those melons. Now let's look at it. I think that's I think that's better. But do you like it the other way?
No, I'm gonna go forward, and I'll do my intentional repeat here.
Okay.
I also want to point out that you have a myriad of finishes in these designs. So talk a little bit, Janice, while I'm stringing. I want you to talk a little bit about your mixing of metals. So, Bran, maybe I'll do some stringing, and I don't know if we want to widen this up. Janice can talk about that. But
well, I could come over here.
Yeah,
I
you
can
can
come over here and
I'm going to string like I'm
talk a little bit about the one that is finished, because the things that I would point out that I'd like you to remember as you're stringing along. It's easy to forget to put the little drops on, and so be mindful that they are a design element. You can put one on, you can put two on, and it's just fun to add them. They add what I want to call texture. But if you notice, I don't put them from one strand to the other. Sure. I don't put them right across from each other. I kind of move them around. The other thing I want to show is that I also thought about placements of major drops. So I wanted to put this one on at the beginning, and then I found that I wanted to add a tassel, but I did it on 3 separate strands. Not necessarily, this wasn't meant to be in the center, but it is. And then I started thinking about how can I help everyone out there start to think. We were talking about marketing your jewelry, making, how to price things, making your jewelry more unique. And I decided, if we start to layer our metals, we're going to make our jewelry more unique. You go into an accessory store, most of the time you will see it's all silver or it's all gold. Rarely in one of those accessory stores do you see the uniqueness of mixing metals. And so if you are making jewelry for resale, what are some of the things you can do to make a statement about your taste, your point of view? And one of those things is the mixing of metals. And so here I used both of the colors of the baubles. I used actually all 3 because I said, I'm going to it's about 2 inches maximum of each that I used. And so that was really the beginning of the layering. And then I actually said, I'm going to put a different color clasp on it.
Wah, wah, wah.
Like if I take this and I put this, I literally looked at this. So if you look at this now with this.
May I have the tape?
Sure. Here you go.
Sorry to
when you
interrupt.
look at it in brass, the way I did, it looks so much more ordinary, doesn't it? Whereas when I use it in the copper, it picks up these lovely tones in these etched agate pottery beads. It just picks up the rosiness of these little teardrop. It just needed more color.
And I think to integrate that clasp with the design, we used then the closure findings we made match the clasp. And so it all looks like a unit, right?
Yes. So we used on here for the chain, we used the silver chain to layer the new metal, and we used silver jump rings for that. And then for the clasp, we used the copper wire guardians and crimp covers so that it looked
like a unit.
Yeah, some of it should
look intentional.
Some of it should look really eclectic and like, oh, you just threw your clothes on and walked out the door. It should have that kind of funky, unique look. And then some of it should, once you've done that funky uniqueness, then you need to tell the viewer, I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I've got my act together.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where you raise the level of your jewelry. When you manage the closure to the utmost, then you have arrived. You've said, okay, I know what I'm doing, and my piece is worth X number of dollars. And so, I also want to give a pitch for my Marketing Your Jewelry handout, which is in the class handouts.
It is.
And I get asked a lot how to price your jewelry. The first thing I'm going to say is price it until people complain, and then you know you've gone too high.
You can always put it on sale.
You can always put it on sale, but value yourself more than you think you're worth. And pretend you're at a job. And
Act as if.
Act as if this is a job. You're making the jewelry for somebody else, and you're sitting there stringing it. What would you want to be paid per hour for doing their design? Then tack on, well, I'm now the owner. What should I get paid for designing this? Then add the cost of your beads. And a simple formula is multiply all that by 3 and see where you net out. Because art is unique. It's not just, stringing and putting it together. So,
and I want to add to that also, make sure not only is that your jewelry is top notch, I want to make sure that your skill set is top notch.
Yes.
Practice those crimping skills. Don't be afraid to, like this green piece that Janice sent over for me to close. I closed one of the strands twice.
Yeah.
Because I had to practice. I had to, and that's one of the main reasons that we have this extra soft flex here, so that as you're starting to close it off, if it's not right, redo it, and make sure that your closing techniques are as flawless as your stringing.
So may I have, Emily, the blue sample right in front of you? Flo, I want to just talk about that one a little bit while Kate is stringing, and then
I'm laning.
Are you laning? Okay, let's
so
stop and talk about
I jumped
how you're
in,
laning.
JP, and I also pulled out the little elements as you were talking about the charms and things that we were going to add.
We need to put a jump ring on there.
I was going to put a jump ring on there.
Okay.
I haven't quite gotten there yet. But we want, and the jump ring I want to put on this, I don't want to put that oval.
Oh,
I don't think.
The 5
I want
millimeter?
the 5 mil. Yeah, I want these.
Okay.
Because they're a little bit heavier. So I wanted to not forget about these elements, so I laid them out, so I wouldn't forget them. Right?
Sure.
So I put them near.
Okay.
So I think, now, did you have any particular place that you were thinking about putting these guys? I might put maybe this guy down here, and maybe, I don't know. Not on this strand, but I would put them on separate strands.
Okay, so I'm looking at this. I might put
here?
this one here, and I might put this one like in the middle there, if that one's on the end, sort of like music notes.
Maybe on the 4th strand.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
So I'm not quite ready for this.
It's not necessarily on
that
those
strand,
3.
yeah.
But if you are you going to put the jump ring on?
I'll
Here
put it
you
on.
go. Okay.
And so this, we're using a 5 millimeter ring.
18 gauge.
18 gauge. And just like you've seen me do before, we're going to slide that guy on. Is this might be the 6, is that the 6 mil? I think this is the 6 mil.
I meant to give you a 5.
I want this one.
You want that one? Oh,
If you are showing, you're going to want to be
okay.
lower.
All right. I'm going to grab that one out.
Oh, that's antique silver. But that's okay.
That's okay. You know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use the antique copper.
Okay.
Because it'll look like a piece of hishi.
Okay.
So that's what I'm looking for right there.
Okay.
I have a small jump ring. The diameter is smaller. The wire gauge is heavier. And it's going to fold. Where do you want me to be,
Just
Bran?
right above the...
Here?
There's perfect.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open that up enough to dangle my charm on. And then we're going to close it.
I love how you wiggle.
Yeah, and
you
we just
wiggle,
work
wiggle,
that,
wiggle.
work it. Sorry, Bran, I can't.
I know.
I can't see.
I moved it up, so.
Thank you.
So you're kind of like auditioning the wire. You're telling it,
Yeah.
okay, do a little tap dance.
Yeah.
Shuffle over close together.
And I feel that closure.
It
so I know
seals.
it's closed.
Yeah.
That little wiggle of that jump ring work hardens the wire at the opposite. It's like the joint of the elbow of this jump ring, or the knee of this jump ring, is right here, right? So I'm working that joint back and forth so that work hardens, and it brings the tips of my jump rings together. Because you guys, your jump ring on this is either going to be open or closed. A jump ring is not almost closed. Because if it's almost
call
closed,
them jump rings because they jump off.
they like to jump
Yeah.
off of your jewelry.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now that's ready for me to add wherever I want to add
Right,
it, but I'm not
right.
quite sure where I want to do it yet. But a heavy gauge jump ring, you guys, is the way to go.
So let's just stop and look at this now. Did this first strand, this looks like this first strand got you moving and going with your second. You got like, oh, would you may have even gone further?
Maybe. I wanted to see, though.
Yeah, you
what I
wanna
wanted to see
see.
here, I wanted to see what, not only am I designing this way in a forward motion, but I'm also designing in a
Your canvas.
side-by-side motion.
Yes.
So you have to kind of think of both of those things all at the same
So
time.
would you start your fourth one now?
You know, almost. What I've been thinking to kind of get me to, I want to get to right here.
Okay.
And then, so go a little bit further than this one, then I'm going to add my fourth, I think.
Okay. Now, do you string like this?
I do. I don't do as much laying out of my strands like this, and I like it. For me, I have them a little more loose, but ultimately they end up, I lay them out like this. Because if you are going to do a successful multiple strand, I think, you hit it right on the head, Janice. It's the canvas. This, you know, it's like when you're cooking, if you're making, I always say, when my gran made a pasta sauce, Gran didn't have a recipe, right? She put things in until things were right? Same thing with this. We don't have a recipe. We have some guidelines for it, but you know, we're not going by a specific, you know, does this bead and this bead, do these two beads look good next to each other? If you do that, you're never going to finish this piece, right? So
Yeah.
we're looking at the total picture.
We are, but if you put on a bead and you go, I don't like that next to
and
that.
see, I'm having that issue right here.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, no.
Well, let's
So I'm
stop.
gonna
Don't
take
take
these
it
off.
off yet. Let's just show everyone
Okay,
what.
right.
Let's just go. Okay, so these two are sitting nicely. They're just like laned nicely. But this, you might have gone like a little long on this row here of just straight beads. So what's happening? Can you just set it? What's happening is this is, even though they're not bumping into each other, these
There's
are telling the
space.
same story. It's kind of boring. So maybe this comes off to here, or you take all of this off, and then there you need a little seed bead here, and then that. But clearly, this space needs to be filled up
with something.
and then when it comes time to getting past this, then you want this here. This belongs.
Yeah,
See
right
how
there.
now that looks good right there? So you've got a little homework. Little restringing to do.
So Ginger was chiming in with an interesting kind of comparison here with Kate was going with the recipe, and Ginger says, taste as you go.
Taste as you
And, you know, it's true that most cooks or most chefs, while they're in a commercial kitchen, are tasting things all the time, and they have buckets of spoons around where they only use it once and then it goes in the dirty,
Right.
you know. But it's nice to hear the two of you collaborating, but also sort of exploring how you guys fit together a little
Right.
bit, how your design styles fit together.
Right.
And just listening on this end, it's really nice to hear that collaboration happening, and it's something we don't always get to have that. I mean, you're not always here. Sometimes
Right.
it's Kate and I, but It's having someone at your bead table that you collaborate with.
Exactly, exactly.
I always think it's always fun. That's why people like to bead together.
Right.
Right?
So while you're doing, are you ready to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at that now. How do you feel about that?
I feel better.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so are you going to now do
Almost.
Okay. So
I'm
while
so
you're
close,
almosting,
Janice.
while you're almost, I'm just going to talk
Almost.
a little bit about this one. And what is unique about the way you string is that even if we gave you this design, which we do on the project map, and you said, I'm going to copy that, it would not be exactly the same.
I could not.
So years and years and years ago, in fact, there's a project on class handouts called Floating Spaces.
I remember
And
floating spaces.
Many, many years ago, I did it for a class, and then we decided to do a handout. And it's unique because you have to space the garnet drops on the wire. And at the time, Iris Sandcooler was working at the bead shop, and she made. And there's no one who, I know, Iris, if you're out there, there's no one who is more like perfection oriented than
detail
Iris.
oriented than
Yes.
our Iris Sandcooler.
Iris took
It's
my
true.
sample and she copied it so she could make it for step by step, and the finished sample was not the same as mine. That you just, everyone out there, if you can just remember, no one has we all know no one has our fingerprints, nobody has our same DNA, no one has your design sense. And even if you're going to copy this, it's not going to look the same. It's just not.
Thank goodness, right?
Thank goodness. So on this particular one, I laid it out just as you see Kate doing. I did it a strand at a time. And it wasn't until I was finished that I noticed how those
diagonaled.
Yes, because when I was doing it, I didn't think about it. But I was very aware of where I placed these. I had some stripe beads, I had little darks. So when you get out your African mix and your melon beads, look at your stripes and look at your darks and your lights and your little ones and your fire polish, and just be mindful about where you put things. You're not going to make, in the finished scheme of things, no one is going to zoom in on that section and go, that bead is too close to that bead. But they are going to get an overall flavor. And if you think of your design like water, you know how a river flows. The flow, every drop is not exactly the same. So when you design this way, there's really no way that you're blocking exactly, this is going to look like this. It's going to look like rain when you're done. It's just going to flow.
Now, with the charm, when we position those charms, you put this guy right in the middle.
Right.
And then with your
I
other
don't even
bracelet.
know if it's exactly right in
Yeah,
the
well,
middle.
you know, that
Sort
it's
of,
kind
yeah.
of, that it's right there.
Right.
But you also have, on this one, you have kind of a couple by the clasp and one in the center.
Right.
I really think that is so up to you where you like.
Exactly.
Like I've
Where
got
do you
two
like it?
tassels here. I could, for maximum tassel input, or a maximum tassel effect, I could put two tassels right together.
Right.
And do we have,
We do, Katie. We do. We have
Janice,
other colors.
Look at all those.
Like,
Let's face that to the
Okay,
camera
here.
so Brandon
we
can
do.
see that.
We have like lots
We've
of
got
yummy
so
colors.
many yummy colors.
Yes.
And the other thing, do we have any of these little dagger drops, the drops that are in the
we
green?
do. Here.
I want to show, I want
I
to show
love that.
something with this.
I love that. What is
Because
that
not
called?
only,
Make a point.
make a point.
Make a point.
Not
That's
only,
one of your favorites.
It is. It's my favorite. Next to Little Shadows, this is my favorite. And you
Look
can
how good that
also
looks.
pattern, you don't have to just pattern with your beads. You could also pattern with your dangles, right? So if I were starting to, right, and it could be two different ones.
Look at that color
right?
with that. That
It's really pretty.
How suddenly.
You took my makeup point
I'm
off
sorry.
while I'm putting
I'm sorry.
this back. No.
I just want to show.
Okay.
I'm going to take the gold out. I just wanted to show how the whole personality changes when you add that rose color. How different it looks.
Even if we
it's
use the rose instead.
It's just so.
No, I'll see your rose.
Okay, and you're going to raise my gray,
I'm going to raise your gray.
or is it beige? But see how it changes it.
Look at that.
Look at that. Now put your make a point in. Make your where it's that. I love that make a point. It's so. You spotted it.
I did.
At
When we were doing some bead shopping.
what was that show we went to?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia Bead Fest. You spotted that from 100 yards.
It's so good.
Out of everything, you said, I gotta have that.
And look at how you could make a real color story
Yeah.
in this
Yes.
with different
Yes.
tassels. Even if we've been talking about the fun of purple.
Everything. Just, yeah.
Yeah. So you could really, it just depends on where you want to skew the color,
Exactly.
right?
And then when you're making those choices,
Make them mindfully.
Yeah, I want you to feel how your body feels when you're making those choices. How are you feeling when you pick that bead out? Emily is
great.
pointing to her tummy.
I'm saying it's that internal,
Yeah.
like, do I feel good about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it appeals to me.
Yes.
Your inner core says, yes, that's right, or no, that's
Yes.
not quite it.
Yeah.
And slow down to listen to that voice, because that voice is your creative voice. That is the difference between you and the accessory store.
That's right. And one of the things I also think that helps you kind of pick these out, and I always go back to as when my mom and I quilt together, we call picking out the fabric auditioning the fabric,
Yes.
right? Every bead almost that you put on here, you're auditioning. Right? And you see, well, does that work? Does it not work? And I think as mindful as you're being, I think you also need to have these beads. See, notice how you guys, I freed these, my beads were up in my little bin here, right? And I'm like, I can't choose my beads from there.
Right.
So I just threw them out there and jumped in.
And another thing I did as I was stringing along, and I started to notice that, I really like using that particular stripe or that frosted one. I just went in and I said, okay, let me kind of separate
See
out
how
my
many you have.
frosties.
Yeah.
Because I could have used all my frosties on one end. That wouldn't be bad if that's what my intention was. But if I wanted to have, like this frosted bead, if I wanted this one around the bracelet, I should just maybe make sure I'm, picking them mindfully. That's
Now, one of the things that I do when I design
looks good
with
there.
center, with the say something bead, I guess is what I say.
Right.
Sometimes you do kind of want to go, okay, I've got so many of these, and I know I'm going to need another one maybe there. So sometimes that's when I'll bring in the design board. Now,
You could also use a pencil.
I could. I am not a big design boarder, but sometimes that design board helps me, and it also gives me a goal.
Are you talking about the ultimate design board?
We could certainly use the ultimate design board.
So
But
let me
this,
just show this
if I'm
gonna
stuck,
throw it in for a second.
throw it in. It's this
Just
guy.
so this is the one that's got the grooves.
The grooves in it.
And so you're talking about maybe laying them out.
Out in here. And it'll also give me a goal. Like if I'm really stuck
Right.
and I don't know
Well, you
what
call
to
me,
put,
right?
I'll call you. I'll
me.
say Janice. But I'll go, okay, all I have to do is I have to get from this bead to this bead.
Right.
How am I going to do it?
Right.
It's, that's not even half an inch, but it gives me a goal to reach. I like a goal.
So what if I said to you, when you get stuck, I want you to stop? When you say, I don't know what to put on next and I can't figure it out, I want you to stop. I don't want you to try and work through it. I want you to...
That's the difference between you and I. I'm all, let's go. Come on, breathe through. Come on, let's go.
When you reach a point where you're going, I don't know what to put on next, I want you to stop and I want you to start another strand.
Right.
Because your brain, I've done this now, I want to say for close to 50 years, and I've worked with a lot of students and I've seen the light bulb go on, and I've noticed that if they can stop pushing on that gate to open to get out of the corral, and they just figure out, hey, wait a second, I can jump the fence. Or instead of trying to get through the door, wait a second, the window is open. Or there's
like
another
Glinda
door.
the Good Witch when she says, you had the power all along.
Yes, exactly. The brain is amazing, and it will solve it for you. Now, you guys are laughing. What is going on? What is going on? What are people saying? Like,
Ginger wants to know if she can FaceTime you if she gets stuck.
absolutely, absolutely, yes. In fact, we've been
That's
talking
so
about
funny.
doing that, right? A Monday,
Right, call in.
yes, a Monday call. Yes, Ginger.
Hi, everybody.
Ginger.
Janice on the line. First time caller, long time listener.
Well, look, first of all, Ginger came to my bead retreat.
she did.
My bead
Your little
day.
bead get together.
Ginger has my phone number. So, Ginger, yes, you can FaceTime me. You know you can.
Oh my gosh, Janice, you're so funny.
Yes. So,
So I'm stopping.
instead of
I'm
getting
gonna move.
stuck,
I'm gonna move. I'm moving down.
moveon.org. Go on to
I'm
your
moving
next.
on.org.
Go on to your next strand. That is the beauty of multi-strands. You're working on a canvas. So
I've always looked at jewelry making in just in the general sense as a lot of times it's kind of problem solving. You know, you've set yourself up with sort of the starting strand, and then
Right.
you're kind of problem solving as you kind of go along. But it has that same feel of jumping out the window instead of passing through the door. You know, that you can really you just have to think, how can I make this work? I'm determined to make it work. How do I make this work? And the solution will come to you, and because there has to be one. So.
Well, I'm taking a pause for a second. I don't know if you guys ever, I have on 12 bracelets.
Oh, and
I
your
can't
hands are-
string.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
string with all this stuff on. So
yeah.
People love your ring,
get me.
though.
Oh, thank you. There we go. All right. Whew.
So as you're stringing,
I had to take
I
those
just
off.
want to respond to Emily and going, and both of you talking about you have to make it work. I'm determined to make it work.
Well, if you are determined to make it work, you will find the way.
Well, there's two things in that. There's the technical side, and then there's the creative side. What are people talking about? I gotta know. Tell me. What
So
are
you'll read
The
those
comment was
comments.
about like the Butterball hotline.
It's really true.
That's such a great idea.
Do you know that I have actually called the Butterball Hotline because I wanted to know just what it was like. So I did.
Well, that's why we have the
They were
Facebook
great.
group now.
Yeah, we do.
So
right.
that's
The
our
bead table
that's our
is
Butterball
our
hotline.
Butterball hotline. It is
That's
true.
where you ask the question, and I'm not as good as being on as often as you are, Kate, but I do try to get on, and if you ask questions or email me, Janice@beadshop.com, I'm going to answer you. I'm going to, and if you want me to call you, I will call you, I promise, and we can talk it through. But I'm trying to say that if it's a technical thing, I have to do this. oftentimes the problem is one of physics, like the needle's the wrong size, or the thread is too thick, or the hole size is small, or there's something that it still requires you to stop, walk away from the closed door that you can't open, you're pushing on it, walk away, and come back to it later, and ask questions, and talk with us, what's going on, why isn't this working? The creative thing of I have to make it work, now that's another story. And that's where less planning and more enjoyment, I think, is going to give you better results. So instead of worrying about what is it going to look like when I'm finished, if we were painting a canvas, we wouldn't say, okay, okay, here's my house, and there's my little garden path, and I'm going to sign my name over here. And the frame is going to be green. That's not how it works. Nope. You start and you paint. And yeah, we start out by copying, and that's a good thing. Learning the techniques by copying. But I want to say to everyone, you already have your voice. You just have to listen. Okay, can I go home now?
Yeah. Thanks, JP. And that was Stringing 101.
That's my story, and
You're sticking to it.
I'm so adamant about that everyone has such a beautiful, unique voice.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There were several other comments about choices of ways to solve problems, or to one. Suzanne said that she'd like to sleep on it overnight if things aren't quite happening. And then there was the glass of wine. And then also a suggestion in a second for classes Monday through Friday, or at least 3 days a week.
Well, we're not going to be on. Well, I don't know. Let's just Facebook.
Well, no, we're looking at all different kinds of ways of communicating, learning, creativity, techniques, design. So I'm
going to put 3 drops
together, and having interactions.
Yes, and interacting.
Well, I think that's what really, beating in a vacuum sometimes is fun. When I'm working in my studio or whatever, and I've been working a lot this week because we're going to Tucson soon. But working by yourself can sometimes be a lonely process, right? And I think that you getting a little bit of perspective, and I think that's what our bead group is doing for a lot of our designers.
Maybe encourage everyone to even post as you're doing it.
We'd love to see some progress shots.
I don't know what to do next. What do you think? Now, I want you to remember that these 3 little drops, if you put them like this, they are going to take up a little less space. They'll get a little closer together. They look great, though.
And I think I'm going to put this, that charm there, maybe.
Okay. Are there some questions out there that we can answer?
Trish was positing that chips might work in this design as well.
Yes.
Yeah, this would be a great design for chips.
You can use any kind of bead. Anything is an element. Cubes would look great. 6/0 would look great. Fire polish in a number of sizes. Semi-precious, we didn't even get to.
We haven't
6
scratched
mm.
the surface.
We didn't. So I bet you have a box of beads at home that you could do this with. I mean, we love that you want, the trade, the West African trade beads, and those are limited quantities. I don't know if we're getting that back in again.
Well, we may.
But, you can layer, if you have other chain, like this is layered with a little lentil, you could use another chain that you have at home.
And speaking of chain, Janice,
yes.
I think it's time to close.
It is. I think that's why. Are there any questions about the design?
I have one more from Manny Martinez. Do you feel like you're worried about the center of this design because it tends to be more in the front on the wrist.
It's a great question.
And is it something that you think about as you're kind of beginning at one end and working to the other? So the middle part, is that a place where you tend to do any more focus, or is it equal?
Should I answer this?
Yeah, it's your, yeah.
So I didn't worry about the center. I was concerned about my drops being too close to the
edge.
class.
Your charms.
My charms,
Your charms.
yeah, my charms. That I was concerned. I didn't really, it just so happened that in most of these I did put something in the center, but when it's not like a necklace where you really have to worry about where your focal point is. A bracelet moves, and that center is going to move around. If you're selling your jewelry, then you want to think about the editorial nature of it. What is going to be in front of the camera when you photograph it? What's going to be next to the clasp when you photograph it? But I didn't think too much about it. It just happened instinctively.
And I think also you can kind of, since we measured this out, Janice, if you guys are concerned about, well, where's my center, you could mark your center here, and you could
just go
here's
like,
my middle.
Here's 3.5.
Yep,
right
there's
here.
3.5. There's my center.
That's where my center
and
is.
I'm going to here, so
Yeah.
you do get some visual.
Yeah, that's why working on paper, like if you want to write a note, oh, I'm going to go have my evening glass of wine now, but I want to remember that I want to put something here. You can go, okay, I'm going to put my charm here on this strand. I love paper for this kind of a project. You can tape it down, you can pick it up. And
it's nice to take I think that this is such a visually, speaking of editorially, and if you are starting to sell your jewelry, your customer wants to know a little bit about you and a little bit about your process.
Right.
So this is, I think, kind of a way to romance what it is that you do. You're not just putting beads on a string, but you are creating an artistic statement through what you're doing here. So something like this kind of laid out, that's why I had Grace take that photo last week of the board you sent in, because it was such a visually arresting image that I thought it would be fun to share. So I think it's the same thing with this.
Same thing with what you did with Deco Wrap, the way you were inspired by the painting by Stella of the bridge. I mean, it just, finding that voice and communicating that in your jewelry to either your customers or your friends is just wonderful. It's all part of your new unique story. So now are we going to close?
Yes, let's close.
Is that what we're going to do now? So
Yep.
maybe we
So
want
you know what I'm
to
gonna
move this
do?
piece of paper and bring
We
this
can,
one over?
though
we
can
should be
also,
able to pick this up.
Yeah, what I want to show you is when I pick this up, this has all been taped. So what you can kind of do is pick everything up, and what I do, I don't know what you do.
Did you tape them together
They're
yet?
taped, but what I do
Tape them together,
is
exactly.
I make a little tape sandwich on this side, so it's all good to go. Okay, and then we'll kind of do that same thing.
And all of these flags need to be folded.
Yeah, that
So
one
that-
yeah.
So that they're folded. You can't pick it up. And maybe and one of the things is soft flex can curl, a little bit. So just, it won't curl if when you're picking it up or you're taking the tape off. Just do it slowly.
Yeah, really gently.
And your soft flex won't curl.
Because once soft flex is
Curls,
curled,
yeah.
it's curled.
Yeah.
So there's no going back.
Okay, these should all
Here.
just come up
Yeah.
because didn't we
And
have
this one's
tape on?
taped, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So what I'll do, pardon me, I'll make that little tape sandwich, and that tape sandwich can live anywhere, but I'm just going to lay all of this
now
out.
you have your project.
I've got my project.
Like this one. It's
and I'm
all
going to tape.
all
and I'm going to tape
taped.
here.
It's all ready to go.
And I'll put it in on my little design board, and we're good to go.
Right.
Okay.
Now this one, which
Thanks.
is our blue sample, which is called Flow, is shorter than than the
The
earth
one that I had, yeah. So this one
By
you
a
size
bit.
for your wrist.
Right, and you want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
if it's the right length, and I measured this, that it does fit me, that
And-
they're all the same length, and they may not be.
Well, one of the things that I do is I fine tune this. I always say that the closure part, I never close on the same day that I string unless I have to.
Yeah.
Because my mind is not set for closing. Because it takes, for me, it takes everything I've got.
Okay.
Okay? So, we're going to come in. Which clasp are we using for this, JP? Let's see. Here's
For
the blue.
the flow, we're using the Clio clasp in antique brass, and we are using the crimp beads in antique brass.
Okay.
And the chain, the lentil chain,
Also antique brass.
antique brass.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about the chain as well. The chain, we closed this piece first, and then we added the chain, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about adding the chain. But first, let's get our first thing closed here.
Okay.
So for our first strand, I'm going to just double check my length, and I can see what I like to say door to door. It's just a hair over. It's about 6 3/4, right? So that's perfect. So that's our baseline for it. So now I'm going to, this side, these have all been taped and open like they're little tape flags. But this side is that big bunch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully pull it out of this bunch. Just like so. And this is going to be my start. So let's get our seed bead, our crimp tube, and I'm going to get our. It's okay, JP. I'll just put it right over there.
Well, I want to make sure they're the same length.
Well, I'm also going to check it.
Oh, okay.
So this is what it's.
Okay, so once
trust
you,
my process.
I'm gonna. Yeah, you're the queen of crimping.
Trust my process.
Yes.
So you guys have seen me do this a million times, so I'm not going to go particularly slowly on this because we've crimped and crimped and crimped. There's a couple of places on our website. We've got a great skill builder on how to close using crimp tubes, and I'm using the Xuron crimping plier for this. I'm going to start kind of out here on the outer ridges because I want to preserve as much extra thread as I can for the other side, okay? So I'm not bringing my crimp tube, I'm not working way down here at this bead. I'm working out up here.
Why work down there when you can leave
when
it
I have
for
a little
later?
room.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a wire guardian. Now, the wire guardian is like a little horseshoe that has little holes in the bottom of the horseshoe, and those holes fit this soft flex just perfectly.
So they look like this.
Now, what we cannot forget, because we get super excited that I've got my wire guard on here, we need to put
Have
our
the
clasp
clasp.
on. Now notice I've got my clasp closed, connected. We always, and you'll see that when I do the second side, okay? But just trust me that we want to get that clasp closed. Now also at this point, I want to make sure that I pull down that my soft flex is sitting in that little open channel of the wire guard. We don't want the soft flex to be pooching up like that, right? We want it to be nice and tight. Now, I'm just going to walk my crimp up to my wire guard. Now, you've seen me, when I've crimped before, you guys, you've seen me come in and push the little legs of the wire guard together. What I need to do on this strand, because there are multiple strands, I need to have movement, and there's going to be a crimp cover on each of these. I need a little bit of space for the lip of that crimp cover to sit. If I push my crimp tube, let me do it and you can see, if I push my crimp tube all the way up to the feet of that wire guard, there's no room for my crimp cover.
Oh.
So I need to walk this bad boy back.
The bad boy is the crimp bead.
That's right.
Okay. And give it a little air.
Give it a little bit of air. And having those wire guard, the little feet spread apart a little bit, gives me just about the right amount. So I'm going to come in, a right amount of air is what I mean. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to lay There we go. I'm going to lay my soft flex side by side so that when I crimp, one little piece of soft flex lays in one channel and the other leg lays in the other channel. And I come in and I crimp. Now I can check. We want to make sure, and Brandon, I hope you can see this, because I want to point out that little space. Typically, if I weren't putting a crimp cover here, I'd try not to have that little space between my crimp and my wire guard. But since I'm using the cover, we need that space. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to give this wire guard a hug with my pliers. No,
Wire guard or your crimp tube?
My crimp tube, and I'm not going to hug it yet. I'm going to fold it, then I'm going to hug it.
So the first step makes it into a hammock.
A little, right.
And then the second one makes it into a burrito.
Yes, well, a taco, really.
A taco.
Yes. Or a, I don't know.
I love tacos.
I do too. Is it Taco
Is it
Tuesday?
lunchtime?
I was hoping to have
lunch?
a Taco Tuesday
Yep.
at my house, but no one wanted to come.
No.
Nobody likes
Poor.
tacos.
So poor.
Virginia.
Can you move forward just a little
So
bit?
now, I can try.
There you go.
I can try.
Just a little.
I can't
It
see.
doesn't take very much though.
So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip. If my crimp tube has been crimped perfectly, which I believe it has, I can go ahead and I can cut that little extra right off there.
And if it hasn't, hey, you have all that soft
Look at-
flex.
I've got-
you
right.
could do it again.
And when I crimped the first one on the green one,
Yeah.
I crimped my crimp tube too close to the wire guard. So I had to
Oh.
cut it off. And
Oh.
so that's why we need that extra. So now, I'm going to come in with my crimp cover. And you can see how the little fold of the taco, if I
Yeah.
look down my
Yeah.
little thing, and I'm going to give it a little squeeze this way just so it catches, then I'm going to turn it.
I love how
And
you just
round.
massage
I do.
that round crimp cover
And a
into
light touch, you guys. We're not
its habitat.
Yeah, we're not building a house. We're just
Yeah.
closing a crimp. Now, if you've got that little open gap in your crimp cover, I put it in the rounder of my crimping plier. I need to hold it so I can see it. And I
Gently.
just gently go, hey man,
Hey, dude.
hey, close
Yep.
up there. Sorry, I need to get it right by my eyes though so I can see it. Hey crimp
Yeah.
cover. There we go. That's what I want to see. So now, can you see how the cover has taken that little space? Okay?
Yep.
So now, here's the gig, you guys.
Right.
This is the big where we take a cleansing breath and we come in. We're going to take this tape off, just sliding it off, or sometimes the edge of the soft flex will just cut that tape off. We'll put on our crimp. I'll hold it in my hand. Double check that nothing is,
Yeah, you want
as you want to crimp with a nice open channel. Here's my crimp, my wire guard. Up one little foot, one little leg, down the other. What do I do next, JP?
you put it on, you hook it through onto your clasp.
Yes, clasp.
Now this is where you really need to have your clasp closed, because if you don't, and you're clasping on one end and on the other,
and
first of
clasping
all,
it flat.
it's on a straight line and it's not going to give you that nice roundness.
Curve.
And then the other thing is you could actually have the two pieces of the clasp the wrong direction.
Right.
So that when you then go to put them together,
It's
they
not
don't
right.
fit and your whole bracelet's going to twist.
And that's the other thing. You need to be really mindful that when you're putting this on, that we're not putting it on this
The
one.
correct side,
That
yes.
you're putting it on the opposite
Yeah.
end. So
Unless
let's,
you want it
right,
twisted.
right.
Yeah.
Which might be something. So now I'm going to slide it through. Now, notice, you guys, where my slack in the piece is. Can you see that? Everything here, whoops, I spoke too soon. Everything here is visually tight, not physically tight. Okay?
Okay.
That it looks, but there's still, I've got some room here, right? I'm not hanging onto this or pulling onto it like it's the lifeline. Now I'm coming through my crimp, and
I
notice
love this
how
little thing where it just like,
notice how the crimp is down there touching the bead.
and then you just pull it in,
Gently
rein
pull it
it
in, rein it in, and see how
You're
the
leaving a
feet,
little room.
the feet of that, I haven't pressed them together. That's going to give me the room for my crimp. I might even want to lay it down and make sure. Now, let me show you. I know we're almost out of time, but this is a trick that I do if I'm unsure about the fit. I
You'll then
will
try it on.
and I'm going to try this on Janice real quick. See how I place my tape flag? Come on, come here, tape flag. See how I place my tape flag right up next to my crimp tube so that the bracelet
It's
it's
the
as
correct-
is.
it's the correct diameter,
The correct
yeah.
diameter. So I would come in and I'd go, "Hello, madam. You're here for your
Yes,
bracelet
I'm
fitting.
here for my
it's
phantom thread
so
fitting."
lovely to see you."
Yeah.
And then go a little further, and you
Yeah.
can see that this, and
Will
we
it go
can
up
turn
to
it
the
around.
widest part? If you turn it around, will it go up?
Oh, to your-
like up here. Will it fit up
Yep,
here?
and it
The
does.
answer is yes. Yes, it fits. There you go. Right.
Beautiful.
Good job.
Okay. So now I know that I have the courage of my convictions
Right.
to come in, and sometimes I don't even take this tape away
Oh,
because
you just leave
it kind of
yeah.
it gives me wiggles. Right, this is kind of wiggling around, and I'm like, oh my goodness, come on now.
Now you're
So
gonna
it just
crimp it.
helps me to come in and trying not to crimp that seed bead and break it.
True.
If you do, well, if you do, you do. In every life, a little seed bead must break. And then we turn it, and I've got to turn it and look at it here to crimp it. Give it that little hug all the way across to make sure that it's good. Now I will remove that tape. I will cut.
And you check that it's crimped.
I check that it's crimped.
Okay.
And I pull and cut. And now I'm going to put that crimp cover around. And again, leaving those little wire guards kind of spread apart. And see, that just gives me just enough.
Yeah.
Because when I close this crimp, I still have to have a little bit of play there. So that crimp takes up a little bit of space. So sizing with a crimp cover and not sizing with the crimp cover are two different measurements. There we go.
So I know we don't have
Pretty.
time to close off all of the strands, but
But that one's ready to go.
Okay, so what you would do once you know that that's correct, then you would make sure that all of these before you crimp it home that they're all the same
Yeah,
length.
and what I also look at when I'm doing that, I'm going to pull this one out and retape it. I also check if this was through here. Let me do it this way. Let's say that we've got our crimp on there and we've kind of done our thing and we've closed that up.
See, I don't do this. I don't.
What I would do is
What do
when
you
I'm
do?
bringing it around, and let's pretend that's closed.
Okay.
When I'm bringing it around, I look at
Are they
visually,
the same length?
are they
Okay.
the same length?
Okay.
Right? And then I can also see, okay, this looks right, this looks good. So I also size it
Okay. You size
in
it
real
that
time.
way. Yeah.
Like that.
That's really, I've never done that really. I've just done it flat, make sure they're all even. I like how it looks, but that makes a lot of sense.
because I really want to see, you know, because that's how it's going to lay when it's on your wrist. So anyway, then once I do that, let me put a piece of tape on here. I do want to just show you the lentil
Yes.
as we connect this lentil.
Yes.
Now I chose, Janice sent this to me and said, attach the lentil. So I chose one of our very special jump rings.
One of your favorites.
One of my
the oval.
faves. It's the oval.
Yeah.
And the reason that I use that oval is, you guys, because that joint is on the side. And this little lentil, see how that lentil is a skinny little piece of metal. So when this
tiny little hole.
right, that tiny little hole. So when that lentil hole in that that chain link is going to be sitting at the bottom here. If this were a round jump ring, it would sit probably right where the opening of that jump ring is.
Right.
But since this is oval, that opening is going to sit on the side, and I'm going to lose. This is going to really be much more sturdy.
Could we also mention that you can't just cut the ring on the chain and use that as a jump ring?
Right, because it's closed, and you don't want to cut that ring open.
It won't. It doesn't work.
Gonna, no,
it doesn't
you
work.
need to have a ring. So I added on this strand right here. We added one to the outside. So let's add it there, shall we? And I'm just going to. What I did when I measured the chain, not only did I measure it to the length of one of these lengths, but I also looked at it visually to make sure.
Is that the right length, or is it?
It is for this one, yeah. Because I measured on this one. So can you see? It's kind of hard to see, but these strands, one of them is slightly shorter than the other two, maybe by like a full link, because as I needed this chain to dangle just a hair beyond the beads.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Because when I was testing it in the round like this.
So you're saying on all of the strands or just on one of the strands?
No, on all the strands. But I did the first one and I'm like, that's not sitting right. Okay. It was so I made it just a hair longer. So see how this one is the too short one. Can you see that? So these move in the piece a little bit better.
And because the beads are thicker, they take up a bigger diameter. They won't show the chain if you don't make it a little bit longer.
Just a hair longer.
A hair longer. Oh, that's clever.
Well,
very clever. I learned something.
Well, we always collaborate. So let's open this ring. And I'm attaching it to the little round lentil because it also looks like a continuation of the chain.
Yes.
And we just slide it on. There's plenty of room in that clasp. We slide it on. And this, sometimes if the other clasp is in your way, you can take this apart.
The other clasp.
Or the other half.
Okay, because
you don't have to have
got
it closed.
one side.
Yeah. And I know what this is going to look like. Back and forth and closed. And then, though, before I attach it, I'll close it again because I want to make sure that I'm putting this on the same side. See, I'm putting this on the outside, so I'm going to do the same thing with this.
You just want to be consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be on the outside or the inside,
and
doesn't matter.
And you could use really any chain with this, you know? I mean, this is just...
one of many.
One of the ones that's kind of a new favorite, at least of mine. But you could use 3 different chains. You could put a strand of chain on each link.
And I also want to make sure that when I'm attaching the chain
twisted.
that it's not twisted.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to bring it around, making sure, like when you're casting on for a sweater, you don't want your cast on to be crooked. Same thing for your chain.
So sometimes what I'll do is I'll let the chain hang in the air, and I wait for it to unwind, and then I'll put the ring on in midair. Like, how do I do this? But that's
right. So it's twisted.
so that it's untwisted.
Yeah. And I'm going to use my 2 pliers to close that up. So there we go. We're a 1/5 of the way done.
Yeah.
Make sure that's sitting out correctly.
But what a great
It's
finish.
really a pretty closure.
Yeah.
Really good. Ta-da!
Well, this was fun.
Janice, it was so fun.
I know it was a lot of different products, but I know it's a lot of ingredients, but honestly, it makes such a difference to have unusual beads, to have round beads, to have tiny beads, spacer beads.
I think, Fran, we can move the camera back up too.
I'm voting for the more the merrier with this project.
No, it's a good one, and I think they're also, if we did a strand of this, a strand of this, and a strand of, I don't know where our grounded sample was. Our other one. I tossed it over to you.
Did you?
Didn't I?
I don't know. Where did it go?
I don't know. Who took grounded?
Oh,
there it is.
There it is. Okay.
You know, it would be a great...
Put them on, to wear them, to mix them up. They're
How
just
pretty would that be?
fabulous.
Super pretty.
Yeah, fabulous.
I don't know why I love this board that you wrote on so
I don't know.
much.
I'll have to leave
I
it
don't
to
know.
you. I'll have to leave
just
it
look
here.
at how pretty it just, even like this, there's our little
Wait till I send you
palette.
the next project.
Oh, I'm so excited.
March.
It's so good.
March 4th or 5th?
Yeah, you're going to be back.
Yeah, I'm
You'll
gonna
be back.
Yeah.
In March, we've got another, we've got a really great, another
And
Janice
I
project.
want to say what I'm wearing today. Emily gave me this beautiful
Oh, your
beaded
heart on your sleeve.
and I'm wearing this, which you made me,
I did.
which has got
some cool
my
components from our
jade.
friend Jess Imports. Yeah.
12 for my date, green for my favorite color, shift key because I was moving.
You were
and
were
then
shifting.
I have on your
Yeah.
pearl.
Yeah, that
Patterning
pearl
with
piece,
stones.
patterning
Yeah.
with stones.
Patterning with
Nice.
stones. And you were wearing
I took off all my
your
bracelets.
jewels. Well,
but
we'll get a picture for
yes,
episode
yes.
notes.
So great job. Really,
We did okay.
I think we
I think we
did.
did okay.
Any final wrap-up questions, Em, that we need to go over?
No, I think it was pretty cut right to it.
Yeah.
There was some good thumbs up for the chain idea, and one question about reason not to use bead stoppers in place of tape, and I just said I thought the tape was a little bit safer in this case than the bead stoppers might be, with so many strands and so many moving parts.
Yeah, I think that the tape is also flat, so having all those bead stoppers kind of is like the cans on the back of the wedding car, maybe.
I think it's a personal choice. I think if you like bead stoppers and that floats your boat, use your bead stoppers. I've just used tape for so many years.
That it's what we're
and there are
used to.
times I like bead stoppers, but if they work for you,
More
hey,
power to you.
I might even still just put a piece of tape at the very end, just in case the cat comes over or something. But
Yeah, do what works
bead
for you.
stoppers will work absolutely.
Brendan, would you hand me the bobble chain or Janice and copper?
Yes,
Perfect.
here we
Thank
go.
you. So, as always, we like to wrap up with some fun little things.
I like this giveaway today.
I like it too. And Janice, this was your idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, what we're going to do, let me get my glasses so I can see. There we go.
I know it looks like just a little, but it's
But
really
it really
nice.
goes a long way.
Yeah.
So today is the 24th of January,
I know.
2018. So we do have a fun little giveaway today. If you place an order, it's a little after 12 o'clock Pacific time now. If you order before 1 p.m., we'll probably extend it to about 1:10 Pacific time, and write chain sampler. Janice is going to, we're gonna after the
cut,
broadcast,
yes.
we're going to cut a little, I don't know,
Like 2 inches,
2 inches of each.
Because this chain
Because
is
you can
so
cut
expensive.
up. It is. You can cut up the, and you're going to have your little baubles ready to go. So you're going to get your little baggie with 3 little lengths of chain that you can start to incorporate
I want to
into your
say this
pieces.
chain is like $15 a foot.
Yeah, it's expensive. Well, it's
so
difficult to make. It's a lot of metal.
It is. It is. So
Worth
here
every
now.
penny.
Now you don't have to, if you're making the bracelet, you don't have to buy this ingredient for the bracelet. You can just get your sampler in the next hour.
Which is fun. And Janice, since you were here, we made the discount today.
Oh,
Janice 20. It's
There
today
you are
only.
now.
And it's everything. We thought, you know what, Janice is putting everything in this bracelet. We thought you might want to put everything in your cart. Who knew?
Okay.
But we knocked 20% off Janice 20, and that goes until tonight at midnight Pacific time, 1/24/2008. If you're watching this at a later time, I'm sorry that it doesn't apply, but sign up for our newsletters. Go on to beadshop.com. It's a great way to communicate with us about all of our specials and our promotions.
and join us
So-
on the bead table.
Yeah, join us on our
Facebook?
bead shop community, the bead table. Just put that right in the search and you'll find it. Also, I wanted to make a couple of program couple of program
Sure.
notes.
You're going to be in Tucson.
I am. So this Friday, I am actually leaving for Tucson. It will be really fun. If you guys are in Tucson and you want to come by, I'll be teaching at the Jogs show at the Tucson Convention Center. I'm also going to be popping around some other places in town. It's going to be really fun. I'm teaching at the Masters Talisman Project we do every year, which is kind of a fun round table with... I think that's on Sunday evening. You can look that up online. And I also, so Friday, there's no free tip Friday because I'll be traveling. Though I don't know, we'll see. I may pop in and just say hi to you guys and give you a flash of Tucson. Then next Wednesday, Emily's going to be on her own. But you know what she's doing?
Emily does great on her own.
She does. She's going to be...
We could just lunch and leave Emily here.
Let's do that now. Let's lunch. Let's just leave Emily right here.
Wait, what?
She's going to be doing a great broadcast on Wire 101. So Emily has been wire wrapping for a long time.
Yes.
And not that long, but long enough.
But
Are you trying to say I'm old?
Did I call you old?
You have a toolkit of all kinds of knowledge and techniques.
So it's going to be a really great technique-based Facebook Live next week with Wire with Emily. And then right after that Facebook Live ends, Emily is getting on a plane,
rushing to the airport,
and getting to Tucson so that next Thursday she and I will be running around Tucson, popping in and out on Facebook Live, and it's going to be really, really fun. So I'm excited about that. Then the following Friday, I'm coming back, but again, there's going to be no Free Tip Friday that week. So we're taking a 2-week Free Tip Friday hiatus to honor the hustle and bustle that is Tucson. And then you'll be back that March. What's that date?
5th or 4th. Yeah.
Yeah.
5th.
Third is.
Anyway, it's the first
and then it'll be like the
Wednesday
7th.
of March.
Yeah, the first
that
Wednesday
I'll
of
be
March.
back
Yeah.
with another rocking project.
20 piece.
Times 3, so 60 elements.
I'm gonna call him
I
at a
love
know.
lots of samples,
I gotta
and
know.
everyone here laughs at me.
No, it's
How many? Oh, we need one more sample. We need one more sample.
and we always do. Well, Janice.
Yes, dear.
It's been amazing. Thank you for coming. I always like to say, Janice, welcome home, but you live on the East Coast now.
No, but my heart is
Yeah,
here.
it's true. And
Half my heart.
well, half your heart. It is
Yeah.
true. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. You had look at how many people. You had a little cry face because there people are going to miss you already.
Oh,
But
well,
this
thanks
is
for watching,
yeah,
everyone.
it was great.
Yeah.
And episode notes for this, you guys, will be up on Monday, and I'm sure they're going to be epic. But in the meantime, download that Tricks of the Trade handout and get started.
Yeah.
Please post your process pictures on the
Yes.
web, or email them to us if you're not sure about how to post them, and we'll share them.
Yeah.
We are really excited to see your process with this.
Yeah,
All right.
fun.
Well, thanks, Janice.
Thank you, Katie,
All right.
and Emily, and
And
Brandwin,
Brandwin,
and
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone out
Yeah.
there, for watching.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Emily will see you next week, and I'll see you from Tucson. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.